Okay, and we are live with Mr. Brian Case, the living legend in lending. So, we are excited. I love the background, Brian. Love it. Good job.
Thank you.
We're going to jump in and talk to Brian. And the reason I'm bringing Brian on, Brian Case is truly a rock star in the lending world. He's with Guild Mortgage. Brian and I have known each other for a long time. And he's worked with my team for years. But Brian's also, I think, the number one, if not the number one lender, one of the number one lenders in Oregon, and one of the number one lenders in the country. So, Brian, I know it's uncomfortable, but you're a humble guy. But I'm going to ask you, tell us what your volume was last year.
Last year, I think we funded just over about 374 units for just north of $95 million.
Wow. And right before this, you were telling me that that's an impressive number, but you're on track to do more than that this year, right?
I think if things go as predicted, we'll probably pass that number by the end of August this year. So
it's almost like you're in those fighter jets for real. That's how fast you're flying.
It feels like it. Just trying to keep up.
You are somebody that's built a team, but you started out just like everyone else in the world, putting your pants on one leg at a time. And tell us kind of where you started and how you've grown your business, because there's a lot of similarities between what you do as a mortgage broker and what we do as real estate salespeople, because we have a sphere of influence. We're marketing, we're selling, we're talking, we're networking, we're building relationships. So kind of walk us back to like when you started and how you grew your business.
Yeah, so when I started in the mortgage business, Jim, to be honest with you, there wasn't a lot of regulation or testing. So the only thing I knew about mortgages is that I had one and it paid. And so I was the sole breadwinner at home. So failure was not an option. So I jumped into this industry not knowing much about it. Had some great mentors along the way. And I remember I was sitting on what I called lender row, because we just had these desks in a line. And I would just listen to these seasoned veterans do the job. And I'm like, yes, I like what they say there. Yes, I like that. So I would just pick up pieces of what they were saying and just kind of make it my own, if you will. And then just, again, people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust, right? How many times have we heard that? So then I was like, well, hey, if I'm trying to do loans, well, I probably need to make friends with more realtors, right? So,
Right.
And so, again, and builders and things of that nature. And so, again, not just for the sole sake of doing business, because I'm a relationship kind of guy. I love being around people. I love having fun. I love great relationships. So just trying to nurture those relationships and people to know, like, and trust me.
Did you start going outside and making calls, Brian? Like you'd go and visit offices and talk to people? Or how did you do it?
I would visit some offices, or if I was involved in a transaction, I would obviously try. The best marketing sometimes is doing a bang-up job for somebody and closing on time or early.
Yes.
And then leveraging that relationship, talking to the listing agent, talking to the selling agent, inviting them out for lunch. I think we miss a lot of opportunities sometimes, especially, how many people are involved in a transaction.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a CPA involved in that transaction. Are we reaching out to them? There's an insurance person in that transaction. To them. So just grow my sphere as fast as I could.
So let's talk about that for a second. So if you had an insurance person or somebody else, an escrow officer, do you try to bring them into your sphere and you try to start to market to them? Yeah.
Absolutely. The saying that I like to say is the loan officer with the most friends wins.
Right.
So the more people that know, like, and trust you, the more people that know your integrity, that you're going to do the right thing, that, hey, even, we're human. When you make a mistake, you're going to acknowledge it. You're not going to point fingers, but then you're going to own it and fix it.
Right.
Trust you in that. It's so much easier to refer business to you because they know, hey, this guy, we've always gone by the motto of do the right thing and the money will follow. We've never looked at it first. We've always looked at take care of the person. And that seems to have served us well over the years. Because again, it's not about me. It's about the client. It's about the referral partner. It's about making them look good. Because when you refer somebody, let's face it, it can be risky, right?
Right.
Because even though it's not you, you're just saying, hey, you should go talk to this person. And if it turns out really bad, they're going to look at you and go, what did you do that for?
Right. So you've over the years, you've grown a team, which I do want to get to. But in the beginning, how much of your time was spent like lead generating as a brand new loan officer, kind of green as grass? I mean, was it most of your day? Was it part of your day? How much of your time was spent lead generating?
Well, in the beginning of it, obviously, gotten the loans, you better be dialing, or you better be trying to find a way to get some loans, right? So
Right.
it was a lot more, probably, 80-20, 80 trying to prospect and turn over rocks to find loans.
Wow.
And 20% doing the loans that you ended up getting in, calling your friends, circle dialing your sphere, just trying to find, hey, this is what I'm doing now, and I want to do it for you.
Yeah.
Right.
So, would you cold call agents, or would you visit them in person, or both?
I would find any opportunity to get in front of an education class that allowed lenders to show up. I was there. If there was a golf tournament, I was out there on the tee box greeting them and mimosas and doing whatever I could do just to have conversation with them, to get them to know you. So that, again, how are they going to know, like, and trust you if you don't connect with them?
So this is really interesting, because I think as realtors, we can be a commodity, right? Everybody can look at it as a realtor and say, well, the realtor can do basically the same thing as every other realtor. They can access the MLS, they can put my house on the market, they can show me property, whatever. But why does somebody do business with us opposed to someone else? And I think in a lot of minds for realtors, lenders are the commodity. Like, lender's going to do, they all have the same basic interest rates, they have the same basic products. And so how did you create differentiation? I mean, and I guess my question is, when you talk to somebody, are you talking about a product, or are you just trying to build a relationship?
Well, first, it's, a lot of times when I go to lunch with somebody, at first, I don't want to talk about business. I want to get to know who they are as a person, because,
Right.
to be honest with you, there's some people that I don't want to do business with.
Right.
I mean,
No thanks.
I'm not going to force a relationship.
Right.
A coach that I had a long time ago said, hey, there's enough people out there that want to do business the way you want to do business to not worry about those who don't.
Love it.
And so, again, I want to make sure that we're a connection, because we're a team in that, right? I mean, we have to look at that. Our jobs are to keep everybody calm in the transaction until it funds, right? And that we're doing the right thing, and that we're, again, cross-selling our partner, making them shine. Because, again, it's not about me in that transaction. It's about the realtor, and it's about the borrower. So I think, again, just trying to create that environment where, again, you're being honest, you're having integrity in that. And I think that's kind of, not that I'm not saying other loan officers don't have integrity, but
I get it.
We have some great loan officers in this valley. I mean, we have some great ones.
Right.
I think just being transparent. So many loan officers, if there's a problem, they want to hide that problem and hope it goes away. And 9 times out of 10, it's not going away.
Same with realtors.
The worse it gets. And so I have a saying in my office is, let's not make someone else's problem our problem. If a borrower does something, hey, let's bring it up right away and say, hey, we told them not to do this. They did it anyway. Here's where we're at. Here's where we're going to go. Here's some solutions for it. But if I bring that up, or if I'm just trying to fix it behind the scenes and don't bring the agents into it, well, then it becomes my problem, because then they're like, well, why didn't you tell me early on? I could have helped you with that. So
right. So this is an interesting question, because I think lenders probably even more so than realtors, but realtors get a lot, but lenders probably more so. You get emotional people that would probably get mad about, your delivery of news to them of some kind, right? Because you're delivering bad news a lot. I mean, not a lot, but more than we do probably. And so how do you deal with, and you're training people, you're a coach too. How do you train people to deal with emotional clients? How do you deal with that?
Well, again, I think you try to differentiate, remove yourself from the equation. And I've actually asked clients this question: are you mad at me, or are you mad at the situation?
Good.
Right? Because I didn't do this. It's just where we are. Let's find a place to get through it. And you just try to de-escalate it, sympathize with them. Yeah, I know this is terrible. Yeah, I know this thing, this judgment that popped up that was not on a prelim or anywhere else. Yeah, I know that's an issue. Again, realtors get the sexiest part of the job, right? You guys get to the house, you get to hand them the keys. We are the necessary evil that's keeping people.
You're the workhorse, man. You're making it happen.
And when you mess with people's money and homes, you can get a little emotional about it. Absolutely.
Oh, for sure. Now, when you are dealing with realtors in general, how important it is for you in having systems behind what you do? I mean, do you have email drips that go out to everybody, and is that how you manage? Because how do you manage 380 closings? I mean, I can't
You
even
have to
imagine
have
how to do that.
systems in place. If you don't have
Yeah.
systems in place, it's not going to work. What I discovered a long time ago, Jim, and it's this way for solo lenders as I'm sure it is for solo realtors, right? You're prospecting, and okay, now I got a bunch of deals, so now I can't prospect anymore because now I got to close all the deals that I've got. So then new business goes down, and then the next month, great, I had a great month, but now I got to build again, and so you have this
Up and down
of like great months, bad month, great month, bad month, and so early on in my career, I was like, well, that's not a way to, number one, to live life, and I don't know about you, my bills don't go up and down every month. They're the same, whether I'm closing the deal or not. So that's when I brought on my first partner, and someone showed me, I hear a lot, well, I can't afford to bring on a partner, an assistant, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You figured out what your hourly rate is, because if you take your income divided by how many hours you work, I guarantee you, if you're doing any business at all, you're not going to be standing at that copy machine. You're not going to be doing those things because they're not your highest and best use. You should be out there getting more business. And so, again, then you have to put systems in place. So
let's break this down. Let's break this down for a second, because this is really interesting. So when you brought in, and for agents, I think this would be an assistant, probably would be the first step, so that they can implement systems, right?
It's going to be like a realtor partner one, right? It's just,
so like that's assistant number one. But for you, this is the interesting question that I have for you is, did that person, you call them partner, we call them an assistant, did they, when you, what work did you offload to them? Was it lead generation, or did you keep lead generation?
No, lead generation is one of the highest paying activities you can do. So
Love it.
You can get a lot of people. There's a lot of great lenders out there that don't do a lot of volume because they're not good at lead generation. So we lose our priorities, right? I mean, the most important thing we can do is to what we call make it rain, right? I mean, that's the hard. That's other people can come beside you and help you do the fundamentals, and you've got to have systems in place. You still have to be involved and monitor, which we've done that. And so, I mean, I've made some huge mistakes over the years. Best teacher is a mistake, right?
Right.
So we've just learned how to overcome those with better systems. But
so this is really interesting. Yeah, you're lead generating every day, still at your level then.
Absolutely.
So that's really fascinating. Which I think for a lot of agents, they're looking for a way to escape lead generation because they don't view it like you just said. And I love that comment. Lead generation is our highest paid activity, which is a great way to look at it. So the higher that we get, the more lead generation we have to do, which means we've got to delegate more of the work. Because I think what happens is it's always easier to just go into the work and stop doing lead generation, right?
Absolutely.
We can spend all day doing that, right?
It's hard being in front and being on all the time, right? I mean, it can be tiring, but again, if you want to sustain your business for the long term and continue to grow your team, the bigger my team has got, the more I'm trying to get more into the lead gen, and I mean, increase that time, not decrease it.
So here's an interesting question for you, because then you have a dichotomy, I think, and agents get this too. And I have heard you handle this too personally with people around me that have said the same thing to you. Maybe I've said it to you, is that if they're calling Brian Case, we want to talk to Brian Case, which if I'm lead generating and I'm consistently lead generating all the time, that's going to be a common thing, right? They're going to say that. How do you handle that? The same thing with agents and teams and assistants and everything else.
Well, and it depends on the situation. But again, I originally, if someone wants to talk to me directly, I'm going to talk to them directly, and I'm going to let them do one or two deals with us until they get used to meeting with to working with my team and trusting the team. And then, if they call in and there's something that's in process, sometimes I'm going to say, you know what, hey, obviously I've got the big picture, I've got my funding log, so I can tell you when everything happened on this, but I'm not deep in the weeds on some of these things. I mean, problems get elevated to me, but my team will handle things that are more detailed that I don't have to be involved in. And if someone calls me, I'll say, hey, you know what? I don't know that answer at the moment, but I know who does. Once they start talking to my assistant, pretty soon they're just calling her direct because she's great at what she does and she's got the answer right there. But again, I think originally you might have to have some of those conversations because that way you can get them in until they can actually, again, that know, like, and trust thing comes right back, right?
Mm-hmm.
They know you and trust you, then you're going to have to be maybe the one that handles those calls for a while.
Let's talk about just the mechanics of this real quickly, because I think it's important. I mean, I know that when you're handing out a business card, I don't think it has your personal cell phone. Correct me if I'm wrong. It has a team case phone number, correct?
Correct.
Where does that dial to, and what happens with that call? I'm just curious.
So that goes to our receptionist, and then during the business hours, and after hours and on weekends, it goes to an answering service. During the day, she's scripted to call in. If somebody calls in with a lead, hey, is this a purchase or refinance? Kind of find out what direction that needs to go. And then, hey, Brian's not available at the moment. His partner, Heather, or his partner, Darlene, would be happy to talk to you right now. That works out just fine. And then they'll take the lead information from there. And then if I need to call them back, I can. Normally, if it's a realtor calling in, and if I'm here, I'm going to take that phone call.
Sure. Because that's the primary. That's interesting, because that's your primary relationship where a lot of leads flow through. So that's like a high level sphere of influence kind of situation.
Absolutely.
How much? I'm curious at your level. How many I know it's a little bit different with COVID, but it typically, let's take COVID out of the picture. How often would you be going to breakfast, lunch, coffee, dinner, drinks with people for you on a daily basis? Is it every day? Is it every other day?
There's a great book saying never eat lunch alone. So
Keith Ferrazzi.
Might as well have it with somebody, right? So I know you've seen me, and we've stumbled across each other
many times.
Hey, you got to eat. Call somebody up. Invite them to lunch, and that's part of the way that I can stay in front of some people as well. Is hey, maybe this week, hey, I'm going to call several agents and book a lunch for next week. So when I'm calling them, I'm going to hopefully either invite them to something or go to an event with them, like lunch or coffee or a happy hour or something like that. And then the next week, call and thank them for their attending it. So there's plenty of reasons to reach out and make connections on that.
But for you, is that every day you're doing that? I mean, you're doing that every day?
I would say on average, at least 4 times a week I'm out.
Four times a week. And it's very interesting when I interview top people in the country, whether they're realtors or lenders or people in other kinds of businesses, where almost inevitably they're networking 4 to 5 times a week. And I see with agents that are not performing at a high level, it's either 0 or 1.
Right.
And so that's like a defining difference, I think, with top performers, is that ability to network. And just a quick story with Brian and I. Brian and I met years and years ago. I don't know the first time we met, but Brian was consistently every time he'd see me, he'd make a connection. We went to lunch a few times over the years. But what happened was Brian, I had a lender in my office who was a great lender, fantastic lender, but he was moving on to a different chapter of his life, and he left our office environment. And because Brian had stayed consistent with his contacts, now Brian actually has multiple offices, but one of his offices is in our office. That would have not happened if he had not consistently networked over, not just, this was like 8 years. I don't know how long ago. It was a long time, right? But really interesting, and really not much penetration with me. I don't actually do any loans because I'm not an active competing agent or competing broker. But he had the foresight to know that this is an important contact to make. How much of the contacts do you make take more than like a year to develop? Do a lot of them take a long time?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And again, the agents that are the most loyal to their lender are the ones I want to continue dripping on, because when that person moves on or gets out, I want to be next in line so that they're that loyal with me, right? Somebody switch, on a dime. Well, how loyal are they going to be to you?
Yeah.
If they're switching that easily. So
love it.
Sometimes those are the ones that are worth fighting for the longest. It's taken me 3, 4, sometimes 8 years.
Yeah, right.
But
pay off.
And there's some that I've been talking to for like 5 years already, and they're like, hey, yes, you're my number 2, and if this guy retires or whatever the case may be, you're going to slide into that spot. So.
In that regard, it's not unlike recruiting agents. For us in recruiting, I just had a recruiting call right before Brian and I got to the conversation. And it can take literally years to recruit somebody, and it's about consistency and staying with them, which is interesting too from an agent perspective, because there's a study out that shows that every person in your sphere of influence as an agent is also in 9 other realtor spheres of influence. So and sometimes realtors will be like, well, they know this other realtor, so I'll delete them out of my sphere. Wrong. That's a mistake. You keep them in your sphere. You keep touching them. And then, you want to rise to the top, which is exactly to your point. Let's talk a little bit about other things that you do in terms of marketing, because you do events too.
Yes.
And, let's talk about some of the events that you've done.
We've done a lot of things in the past. I mean, we've rented out movie theaters, invited clients in for the movie theaters. We've done a cigar night, a whiskey.
I went to that. It's great.
Night, which was very popular. We've done that twice now. I've partnered with somebody else to do that, who's been a blessing to have partner with. We've done, rafting trips. We've done, again, happy hours, we used to do like a Thursday where we just do a happy hour the third Thursday of every month, just to connect with people. And the reason I liked doing that is because that would take clients and realtors that maybe sometimes people get siloed, right? It's like, hey, they know all the agents in their office, but they really don't know the agents in the other office. And, when you're in a deal, if there's a relationship, I find details don't get in the way. If there's no relationship, details always get in the way. So people that may have done a deal or two in the past, and now they meet and they go, oh, hey, they built a relationship. The next time they're in a deal together, it's completely different because they now have a relationship. And so I love just watching those connections be made. And
I think one of the things you did really successfully with one of my friends, Trey, and with the cigar whiskey night, I think it was, or evening, which was, I thought, really brilliant for both of you guys. So you guys, I mean, obviously Trey's super successful. He's also one of the #1 financial planners in the country, I think, and a friend of mine. And you're one of the most successful lenders in the country. You don't need to have a co-event, right? There's no need. You both have plenty of people to have your own event. But when you do a co-event with somebody that's in a aligned industry, what's happening is you're sharing, to some degree, your databases are mixing. You're going to meet some of Trey's clients. Some of his clients are going to meet you, and there's going to be some pollination going on there, right? Is that the intent?
Your sphere doubles, right?
Sphere doubles, yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's definitely what it is. And then one of the things also that I did with Trey is that during the COVID, I'm big on trying to give back because I just consider myself one of the most blessed guys in America. But during the COVID thing, we actually partnered up with a local restaurant that I eat lunch at very often. And anybody that was laid off or impacted by COVID, to support this restaurant and to give some relief to some of those folks, we did 2 days where we opened it up for anybody to go in and have dinner or lunch on us.
Wow. Incredible.
Helped the restaurant because he had one of the biggest days he has ever had. Helped people, the stories we got from people coming in, just so, we haven't had takeout or a good meal outside for 3 months and I've been laid off and didn't know where, so just some of the stories was just incredible. So.
Oh, that's great. What a feel good story.
Those are kind of events that really feel good.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the, staying motivated as a high level person and not burning out, because I think, when you're operating at your kind of level, your super high intense level, tell us about your day. Are you working till 8 o'clock at night every night? Are you going home at 5? You going home at 6? You in at 5? What's your day look like?
Last night I was at my home desk till about 11:45. So no, still working a lot of hours, especially in this environment, just because again it's
super busy.
It's 23 years, and it's I've ever been. Which never too busy for referrals, but
yeah, I get it.
So no, we're definitely putting in some hours, and how do you keep it motivated? Well, I think when purpose is clear, decisions are easy. Why are you doing what you're doing? That's it can't just be about self-satisfaction and about building the bank account, because that stuff at the end of the day is nice, but it's going to leave you empty, right?
Yeah.
I look at what impact am I able to have because of the success that I've enjoyed, and I love to give back. I'm involved in some nonprofits. I'm involved in some charity work, and I don't like to talk about this stuff outside. I don't do it because I want accolades for it, but I give a lot of money away, and I'm able to sustain a lot of ministries and provide a lot of life-changing things for some folks, whether it's the wells in Africa or whether it's family food over there, or even local projects that we do through Helping Hands International. Again, with that purpose, and how at the end of my life, I want to know that I made a difference. And so what can I do along the way? You've heard that begin with the end in mind, right? If you're standing in trilogy, what do you want people to say about you? Oh, the guy, made a ton of money and worked.
Who cares?
So, well, great. No, I want to know, hey, no, that guy made a difference and he helped me along the way. So that's what motivating.
And, Brian is a humble guy, right? But I'm going to brag for you because I'm super impressed by just one of the projects that you do, which is when you say you're helping with wells in Africa, you would assume that means you're writing a check, right? That's not what he means. I mean, he's physically gone to Africa and helped people drill wells in Africa. And you spent a couple weeks there? Last year, was it, Brian?
Yeah. No, normally when we go, it's about a 2-week trip. So.
Yeah, impressive. And I know you've done that multiple times, and many other missions, which I think is super impressive. And I think a lot of people can fall into a trap of having miserable success. And when I look at miserable success, is they are at the top, they're number one in their company, but you look at their personal life, you look at their health, you look at every other aspect of their life, they're failing. And that is not a model for any of us. We got to find what creates balance, what creates a mission, a purpose. I think that's your comment there. When purpose is clear, decisions are easy is fantastic. What a great statement to make. Let me ask you about just in general in growth, though, because this is a question that can often, I think, be a little bit haunting for agents and for teams, is how big do I grow? Is there a limit to growth? How do you look at that question?
Well, I look at it as two ways. One, if I can no longer deliver quality results, then it's time to stop growing, right? If I can deliver a better experience, it's time to stop growing. If I can continue to build on what we're doing, that can change the lives of the people that are coming on my team and building a career for them and still having impact with the sphere that I work with, and they're still liking the results. I mean, we survey everybody that we close to find out, did we hit the mark? Did we not hit the mark? What do we need to change? We're constantly evolving and changing it. But this can be a great career. This industry has been life-changing for me. It's given me a life I never thought I could have. If I can cascade that down to a new generation, the average loan officer out there in the U.S., I think, is 56 years old, and there's not a lot of new people coming into the business. If we're not starting to train that next generation that are going to take our place, we could be in trouble out there. So again, I want to grow it as long as it's still sustained. We're still giving good service, still changing people's lives. As long as we can do that, I'll grow. If we can't do that, or if we start getting too big that we're starting to fail, let's put the brakes on.
Got it. Now you have one other aspect of your team, which is interesting, and I think people can struggle with this, and you do it successfully, but I think it can be a struggle for some people, is that you have, I know at least one of your daughters working for you, right? Yep. So how does, first of all, did you drag her into the business, or did she come willingly? And secondly, how do you manage a father-daughter relationship in your team? Because there's a lot of that in real estate business.
There is. And no, she swore she would never do what her father does for a living. The early years when we were on vacation and they're on the beach and I'm in my, I'm on the laptop trying to put out fires or trying to get deals done. And so she swore she would never do what I do for a living. My boss, actually, I worked, my direct boss, Joe, that I worked for him for probably 18 years. So he's seen my daughter grow up. And when she graduated school, she was doing she was in journalism and working for a local TV station. And she was just not fulfilled. There was no purpose in what she was doing. She didn't feel it. So she was going to go in the insurance business almost. And hey, before you do that, let's talk. And I completely separated myself out of it because I go, I don't want to sell you on this because I never want to hear, Dad, why'd you get me into this? Right. So she talked to him. We came together. She absolutely loves it now. She's. I knew she'd be great at it, but she jumped in. But there's some challenges there, right? Because at work you're the boss, at home you're the dad, and sometimes those boundaries don't cross. Don't flow so well. Yeah, I remember one day I was like, hey, you would never say that to your boss, and she goes, well, you would have never said that to your employees.
So there.
So there are some boundaries you got to work. You got to work through.
Do you guys have rules like we don't talk business at home?
What's that?
Do you guys have rules like we don't talk business at home, or?
No, we try to put some boundaries on it, but it's kind of not. I mean, unless you're in this industry, it's hard to go home and tell somebody about your day because unless you're in it, you just don't understand. So it's cool that we have each other to, when we're in that family dynamic, to be able to look at each other and go, yeah, I get it, right? So it kind of, it really helps that relationship.
I would imagine that the biggest struggle is not treating her like your daughter at work. I mean, I could see that being a challenge. Like, I have to treat her like an employee, like every other employee.
Exactly.
That's got to be.
And the challenge is, okay, so the challenge for your daughter at work is they want to work and over-impress everybody to prove that they're not there just because their dad's there. Right. The other side is they, sometimes they might see a little bit of nepotism on that they might perceive. And if each other knew each other's heart, they'd be like, man, that is so far from the truth. And so
right.
A great team, and they actually balance out pretty well. So
let me ask you a question just on gifting and giftology. Do you do gifting? I mean, like when you close a deal, that kind of thing? Yeah,
absolutely. I've tried different things over the years. We've sent out, my nephew has a great coffee business, Case Coffee, that's in Ashland, and he exports all over the world. And so we were sending out some Case Coffee with some of our closings in the past. We've done lottery tickets. We've done, movie tickets, things of that nature. A while back, we did a book because we realized that, hey, we have a lot of people in our sphere that are great resources for people, like mechanics and tree trimmers and doctors and dentists, things of that nature. And if people are moving here from out of town, how do they know who's good and who they can trust or not? So in a book on Southern Oregon that my son-in-law helped me produce. And it's a book of just some amazing places in Southern Oregon that people can go visit, whether it's Crater Lake or Tokenie Falls, and all these cool places to visit, talks about them a little bit. And in between those pages, there's little spots of like, hey, dentists or tree trimmers or those guys that we personally know and can vouch for, put their information in that book too, so that people that are moving here, it's a great hardbound coffee table book.
Love it. That's a great idea.
Based on the area, but also some resources for any services that they might need. And then also our service providers that we use and that refer us business as well. So.
That's great. So if you were going to give a realtor, and I'm sure you do give realtors advice all the time on terms of them growing their business or being successful, what would be some advice you'd give them as we close out this interview?
Again, I think one of the biggest mistakes that I hear them say is they start getting traction, they start building, but they just hiring that assistant that can take them out of first and into second gear. And my thing is, don't resist it. Build it and it will come. Because every time we've added a team member, I've faced that same fear going, I don't take that lightly. I'm responsible for somebody's paycheck and their livelihood. And so I'm not one of those that's, hey, just throw them in there. If it doesn't work, it gets let out. Just let them go. That's just never what we've been about.
Let me ask you one quick question on that, Brian. So hiring an assistant, number one recommendation when you feel like you're hitting capacity.
Yes.
When you're hiring people, just a quick question, what is your criteria? I mean, how do you make that decision that this is the right person? Is it, do you put it through a test? What do you do?
Actually, I preach a team environment, and I preach that we're all in this together, so everybody's got to buy in. And so typically I'll meet with them first. I'm a big proponent of disc testing. So again, what position are they going to be in? Know that ahead of time. What role are they applying for? Do the disc test to see if they're naturally driven to be in that role. If I like them, then I will have them meet with me and my assistant that's been with me for over 20 years. If she buys in on that, then we have a full team interview. So they got to come in.
Wow. 3 interviews.
Full team, and the team gets to ask them any questions. They get to ask the team any questions, because I don't want anything. Transparent, open book. I want to know the good, the bad, the ugly, and I want everybody to buy in. Because if I preach and then I don't give them a say on who their teammates are, we spend more time sometimes with our work family than we do our home family, and we can choose to work with. We can't.
That's true, right?
Time to make sure that everybody is on board with that hire.
But that's really interesting. You start with you, and then it goes to your assistant, and then to your team. I think a lot of people wouldn't do it that way. But it starts with you, so you can kick people out. Is there a lot of times where you get to the second assistant, like your assistant, and she says no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Happens all the time? Okay.
Well, because we're wired differently, right? So I might see, one of the biggest mistakes I think I see people do is when they hire the assistant, they hire somebody just like them. You don't need you. You need
Yeah.
something
Then you get this.
have the areas where you're not, where maybe either you don't enjoy or you can do, but you don't like to do it. So, so they can see different things. And so I might be looking at it from my experience and my background and go, yeah, I think this is great. She might see it from another side for the role that they're in and go, yeah, but this is a red flag and this is a red flag. And wow, so glad you showed that. Yeah, I didn't even realize that. So.
Love it. So you, one other thing I want to talk about just really quickly before we end this off is you are a guy that's constantly being trained and retrained. And I think you are a guy that believes in education, motivation, and keeping yourself fresh, right? So
Absolutely.
talk a little bit about that for a second.
Well, I think, I forget who said it, but they said you should be spending at least 10% of your income on education or coaching. I'm a big proponent of coaching. Things are always evolving. If you're not changing your business every 5 years, you're going to be obsolete. It's changing very rapidly. So right now I'm involved in some a coaching program nationally with some other top producers. It started out in Costa Rica for a 9-day event, unplugged, building out a 3-year business and life plan.
Wow.
Accountability calls 2 times a month, retreats throughout the year. So again, it's great to brainstorm with other mindshare, with other professionals around the country, just to get different takes on what's happening. Again, I just constantly trying to read or listen to audiobooks just to try to keep yourself motivated, keep things fresh. Because I think that also helps stop the burnout, right?
Yeah.
You're constantly learning and you're constantly growing and changing. It just keeps it fresh and fun.
Well, you get excited about different aspects of the business where, they can kind of get into a lull and then get fired up again and you go back to it. Yeah, we have to have that outside push a little bit. Hey, Brian, you've dropped a lot of great information on us, man.
Sometimes we'll go to an event and we'll hear all these ideas and we'll write down 20 of them, right? And then you might implement 2 and then you forget about the other 18 and then you go, oh, that's right. And then you just
Got to do that. Yeah, for sure. Brian, thank you so much for all your great information today, my friend.
I appreciate it. Thanks for
You laid a lot on us. And let's just lay this out because you can serve people all over the country, right? So
I am licensed currently in California, Oregon, and Washington. So I got the West Coast. So
West Coast. So if somebody on the West Coast wants to find you and work with you as a lender, how would they get in contact with you?
they can go to www.teamcasehomeloans.com or call 541-890-TIME, TIME. Ain't no time.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Brian. Have a great day, my friend.
You too.